It is time to call to order the council for the town of Edgewood. First order of business is a roll call. Councilor Jaramillo, are you present?
I am here.
Councilor Abraham, are you present? Councilor Abraham, you are muted.
Yes, I'm here.
Councilor Hawley, are you present?
Yes.
And we have the town clerk treasurer. We have a few other folks as well. Looks like we've got quite an audience online right now. First thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. First item of business is approval of this evening's agenda. I'll make a motion to approve this evening's agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second.
I did want to make a motion to add introductions of who is online and also public comment both before the action items. So they would be before item 2.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to move things around and make introductions. How do you vote? Introductions. How do you vote? Councilor Jaramillo.
Just to clarify, Mayor, we have also after introductions, I wanted to hear public comment as well. So with that, my vote is aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Councilor Hawley.
Nay.
I also vote nay. Motion dies for lack of a majority. I have a motion and a second on approving the agenda this evening. Councilor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Are we going to have discussion? I have a question about item 3A.
Councilor, we've kind of had discussion. I'm calling for a vote. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Hawley, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. We have an agenda. The first item on this evening's agenda is a discussion, consideration, and action on Mayor Pro Tem John Abrams' appointment of a counselor to a vacant position in the town council pursuant to the district court's final writ of mandamus issued on March 5th, 2021. And in that writ, the final, therefore, has a first item as written. Therefore, the final writ is amended and respondent is commanded to appoint a council member pursuant to NMSA 1978 3-12-1. With that, I wish to appoint Glenn Felton as a member of the council, and would make a motion to appoint Mr. Felton as counselor to the town of Edgewood. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do I hear discussion?
I have some questions. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, are you going to continue to be Mayor Pro Tem with this appointment, or are you going to become the mayor and we're looking to appoint a counselor, or are we going to have 5 counselors?
Counselor, I think you are well aware of state statute. You and other members of the council are using state statute rather astutely in the courts. As mayor pro tem, when the mayor is absent, mayor pro tem takes over as mayor.
Mm-hmm. What my question is, if we appoint another counselor, what is going to be your position?
My position currently is mayor.
Okay, so you're going to continue to be the mayor?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then my next question is,
Counselor, if you have questions with regard to the appointment, I would appreciate those.
okay, here's my comment. I believe this is a violation of OMA, as there was a name provided to us or the public. Like, to refer to the as to who you are planning on bringing forward. I pulled something from the general attempt to mistransact. This is an especially important consideration when a public body intends to act on an agenda item. And then I also want to remind you that when we appointed Ms. Linda Hawley, the special meeting item agenda said discussion action item is the appointment of Ms. Linda Hawley to fill the council vacancy left by the retirement of Chuck Green. So I feel like we are lacking the specificity needed not only to inform the public about what is going to be happening, but also as to what position is going to be going away.
Counselor, I'll refer that one to the council here currently. Counselor?
Good evening, y'all. My name is Jessica Nixon. Can you all hear me?
I think you're going to have to pull the mic closer.
Can you hear me now? With regard to the concerns about the Open Meetings Act, the Open Meetings Act provides a remedy procedure within those statutes that can be addressed if necessary. And the appointment is by Mayor Pro Tem John Abrams based upon the court's order in the alternative writ for mandamus.
Sorry, I can't hear.
You might have to scream.
Or if you're wearing a mask, it might be good to take it off.
I'll pull the mask down for a second. Is that better?
Doesn't echo, but it's still better.
So in terms of the concerns about the Open Meetings Act, the Open Meetings Act provides a remedy procedure that can be utilized if necessary.
I'm hearing noise so that I can't hear her.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
I can if the paper rustling doesn't continue.
Okay, so the Open Meetings Act provides a course of remedies if there are complaints, and that can be utilized as you all see fit. And in terms of who will be appointing the position, it's in the final writ of mandamus that was issued on March 5th, 2021, indicating that Mr. Abrams is the mayor pro tem assigned to appoint someone to fill a council position until a decision is made in the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals matters regarding John Bassett.
Counselor Abraham, I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm just trying to understand and clarify. I had also sent an email, I guess it was maybe Sunday or Monday, to Mr. Czar I tried to reach Mr. Zara and you for the past few days here, as well as Mayor Pro Tem Abrams, and have had no response to my questions at all. I feel like I'm completely flying blind here. I don't understand as far as the position goes. We don't have 5 counselors, so did you see my email question of the sort of quandary that we're in?
Ms. Jaramillo, I did see those questions, and unfortunately, based upon the professional rules of ethics that govern my role, I cannot give you advice about the lawsuit that you filed. You are a represented party, and that is the reason that we cannot give you advice about the interpretation of the order. Based upon the reading of the order, the reading explains that Mr. Abrams will be the acting mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, for the time being, assigned and ordered by the court to appoint a counselor to fill that role. As Mayor Pro Tem, that leaves 4 counselors after the appointment. It's not 5 counselors. There are 4 counselors that will remain after the appointment while Mr. Abrams serves as Mayor Pro Tem. He will serve in that capacity until the decision is made about John Bassett.
And so I guess since you brought it up, my question is, are you here tonight representing the town council, or are you representing Abrams and Hawley? My email went to Mr. Czar, and I did not hear back from him. Who are you representing here tonight?
I am here in the capacity as the town attorney representing the governing body. When it comes to the specific questions that you emailed directly about the writ of mandamus that was issued, I represent, again, as the town attorney, Councilor Hawley and Mayor Pro Tem Abrams in their official capacities in which the lawsuit was brought.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you can give all of us advice here tonight.
I can give you the advice in terms of how this meeting should run in compliance with the court's order. I cannot interpret the order or give you previous advice outside of this meeting as a represented party.
Okay, so is that something that Mr. Czar should have on Monday referred me to somebody else for my questions?
You have an attorney.
Well, so my question related to the position and the actions that need to be taken here tonight is Mr. Abrams going to be voting on this action?
As the Mayor Pro Tem, the Attorney General's office has interpreted that he does have the right to exercise his vote as a councilman, so yes.
Okay, and then once a council person is appointed, does he continue to vote? Is that what you're saying?
I think that that is an open question to be decided, but based upon the court's order, Mr. Abrams will become the acting mayor, serve in that capacity with the 4 other council people, including the 3 councilmen that are here tonight and the 1 who was appointed.
So your recommendation is that in future meetings he's not voting?
I am not making that recommendation. I don't think that that question has been answered. I'm making the recommendation tonight that he has, as the Mayor Pro Tem, is permitted to exercise his right to vote as a councilman.
Okay. So just to try to understand the statutes, the judge had there's only 2 options. Either we have the mayor, acting mayor or mayor position, the office of mayor, bringing forward names, and then council votes, which is the statute she used. Or you have the 4 counselors, which includes the Mayor Pro Tem, appointing a mayor. It's one or the other in state statute. It's not both.
Counselor, you are horribly confused, and I'm so sorry for that. The statute basically provides that in a mayor-council form of government, there shall be a mayor, and the mayor and with the council, the mayor shall appoint a mayor pro tem. In the absence of the mayor pro tem then assumes the chair of mayor. And it is the mayor's prerogative then to appoint a new member to the council. If you look at recent history and the unfortunate events in Los Ranchos, where the mayor passed, the mayor pro tem took over and then appointed a councilor. We are in a similar position. We have been put in an ugly position where we no longer have a mayor in office. I have taken over that position. You and your fellow councilors all unanimously elected me as mayor pro tem, and therefore in this circumstance, even though we don't know the decision of the courts on the status of the duly elected mayor, I have been commanded by the court to exercise my right as mayor pro tem and have therefore appointed and asked for your approval of my appointment. Is that reasonably clear?
Well, I wish we could have talked about this Monday or Tuesday or before
Well,
this.
Counselor, I'm not the one who's bringing lawsuits. I'm just following the court's orders and following the law. And I'm sorry, but that's kind of where we're at. I have a motion and a second before me, and I would like to know if we can vote on this. Is there any more discussion?
I have more discussion. I still want to know, why didn't you provide a name to us?
I didn't have time, Counselor. And if as the town's attorney has said, if you disagree with that, there are remedies.
Okay.
And then as far as the list, can you give us your list of potential appointees?
Counselor, I have made an appointment. I have made an appointment, and I have made a motion, and there is a second. And if there is no other discussion, I would appreciate a vote.
I do want to know, though, your list of potential appointees so that we know and have time to consider who it is that we could be voting for. The information was not provided to us in accordance with Operating Resolution 320-12. 3 days ago, more or less 3 days ago, I requested the information, was not provided the information. So I'm just, in an effort to follow the spirit of the judge's order, which was to include the public, be inclusive of the counselors, not having you do things behind closed doors and unilaterally by yourself.
Well, Counselor, I'll stop you, Counselor. Counselor, stop, please. Counselor.
And take a look at our considerations that we have that you are possibly proposing as far as options. The public, I think, as well, has to say something about who they want representing them on this council. And I understand that you are supposed to appoint with the advice and consent of council. So this is not just a unilateral decision, Mr. Abrams.
I didn't think that it was. That's why I'm asking for your votes.
Well, I'm asking you to include us with your list of potential candidates.
Counselor, are you at all unfamiliar with Mr. Felton?
I'm asking you to include us with your potential list of candidates so that we know who all.
This isn't a choice, counselor. This is my choice, and I have given you my choice. If you disagree with that choice, then we move on to something else. But at this point, I have made my appointment. And you're discussing everything but the appointed person. And I find that to be out of order, and I think we need to move on to vote.
So as far as this goes,
Councilor Hawley?
in order to know how we're voting, we need to know the candidates, because if maybe there's someone else in the list, we need to know who you're considering for the position so that we know the information ahead of time and be able to know how to vote and get feedback from the public. I think the spirit of the judge's order was really to be collaborative in this, find somebody that we can appoint to council together. I don't think she meant it for you to keep everyone in the dark and then just unilaterally make this decision on your own.
Go ahead.
Councillor Harmio, I agree with you that the spirit of the judge's order was for collaboration. By the order and per the statutes, Mayor Pro Tem Abrams was obligated to appoint a nominee for you all, and with your advice and consent, to fill the council seat. He has done that. He has appointed Mr. Felton, opened the floor for discussion, and is waiting for a vote on that appointment. There's no requirement that he provide multiple candidates or additional names to you.
And so I guess what I'm just asking is to be included and to be able to be collaborative and participate in the process of appointment. In knowing the candidates sure would help a lot so that we could tell how to vote and get feedback from the public as well. So that was my request a few days ago, just to have the information, because I feel like I'm just flying blind. I've been requesting information, needing to have the statute explained. I still think that it's the mayor who appoints and the councilors have to give their advice and consent. The statute doesn't state that the mayor bringing the name, then he votes. So
Ms. Harmio,
if he to act as a counselor, then as counselor, Mayor Pro Tem counselor, then all of us work together to bring names. And
Mrs. Harmio, I'm going to stop you there. We've been through that on these statutes. Mayor Pro Tem Abrams explained the statutes to you and how they work with this order. It is correct that you are a represented party who could have sought the advice of your council regarding the interpretation of the statutes if you had questions. The directive to Mr. Abrams is to appoint a nominee to fill the council seat and his role as the Mayor Pro Tem. That is what he has done, and he has included you all in this discussion for advice and consent on that appointee. There's been a motion and a second.
So actually, I think you're misunderstanding, Ms. Nixon, because he has not included us in this decision. It is
You are included right now.
Our operating resolution that in 2020-12 that he provide information to us 3 days in advance at a minimum. And, really, we are supposed to agree on someone.
Mrs. Harmio, and that's what this meeting is for.
Well, I wanted to mention that in the future, I don't know, no one has explained to me his exact role and how he will be voting in the future. That could impact our decision as well.
The directive to Mr. Abrams from the court was to appoint a new counselor for the town council for the town of Edgewood. That is what Mr. Abrams has done, and the reason that he was not able to provide any further information prior to tonight's meeting is because the order from the court directing him to take this action was not received until approximately 4 p.m. on March 5th, which was the Friday before this meeting, and your town ordinance calls for that information to be provided by noon. There was no way to comply with it. This is the best means of compliance, and he has appointed someone for your discussion and advice and consent to fill the seat as ordered by the First Judicial District Court.
And I do understand that, and I think that what we're asking for here is to be able to participate in the advice.
That's what we're doing. That's the discussion.
And his list of his list of candidates that he has in mind, so that we can collaborate on this decision and from the list pick, know what we're voting on.
Mrs. Harmio, the list you've been provided is Mr. Felton. The list that you have been provided of the appointees at this point in time is Mr. Felton. That is what he is seeking your advice and consent regarding, whether Mr. Felton should fill the council seat.
So are you saying that there are no more
Yes,
candidates?
Councilor Hawley. Councilor Hawley.
I just wanted to add a few comments for those people who are not familiar with Glenn Felton. When Councilor Jaramillo and I ran for council in 2018, Mr. Felton also was a candidate in that election. He came in third in that election. He was seeking the office, willing to serve. When he came in third, he accepted a position on our Planning and Zoning Commission and has served ably as the head of that commission. And furthermore, he has served as a counselor for the town of Edgewood. I don't remember what his years of service were, but he's already served in that position. So I think he comes to us with great experience and a more recent interest in serving the town.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilor Abraham.
Nay.
Councilor Jaramillo.
Mm,
Councilor Hawley.
Aye.
And I as well vote aye. My appointment of Mr. Glenn Felton to the town council fails for lack of a majority. I therefore would like to attempt to appoint donzel Worthington to the council, and will make a motion to appoint donzel Worthington to the town council for the town of Edgewood. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any discussion? No discussion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I do have a question.
Yes.
As far as donzel Worthington, I do believe he has served as a councilman for the town of Edgewood. Is that correct?
That is correct. He has experience on the council. He has served previously.
Okay, thank you.
And is well aware of the operations, proceedings, and duties of a counselor.
I do have a quick question. Is there anyone who is aware of your list of candidates, Mr. Abrams?
I am aware of my list of candidates.
No, I'm saying, is there anyone else?
I am aware of my list of candidates.
You're not answering my question.
My list could change at any moment, Counselor.
I just would have liked to have been included as far as giving the advice part of this process.
That is this part of the discussion, Counselor. I think that was explained to you by the town's attorney. Is there any further discussion?
I have some discussion. I would once again like to say that I feel like we have been provided vague and general and broad terms, which I'm interpreting as an attempt to mislead not only the public, but myself.
I don't think there's anything misleading, Counselor, but
I think
you're
there is.
entitled. You're You're completely
I mean,
entitled.
I don't my opinion and my discussion, and I just
Certainly
gave
you
it.
are. Certainly you're entitled to your opinion. Is there any other discussion on my request for an appointment? Seeing none, Councilor Abraham, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Yay.
Councilor Hawley?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The appointment of donzel Worthington unfortunately dies for the lack of a majority. I guess that leads me to one more attempt. I would like to appoint Jonathan Longoria to the town council for the town of Edgewood. And I will make a motion to do so. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I will second, but could you give us some background information on this candidate?
Mr. Longoria is a young man who has a good bit of ambition. He is currently studying political science. He is a native, born and raised, educated, and still living in the town of Edgewood. His ambition is to become a lawyer and get his JD. He has very graciously spoken with me, and he is a very, very able candidate.
I have one other question, please, for the attorney. I'm concerned now that if we don't comply with the judge's order, what happens? I mean, how many names do we go through?
Mrs. Hawley, I think that's a great question. I would just like to draw the attention to the governing body as a whole that everyone was directed to appoint a new counselor, and as Counselor Jaramillo identified earlier, the spirit of the order was to encourage collaboration. I think there had been a few candidates or appointees suggested by Mayor Pro Tem Abrams as directed by the court, and there's been little to no discussion about those appointees' qualifications, and we are on the third candidate, and I think that's been a reasonable effort to comply with the court's order, and there's a risk of additional legal action if this is not complied with.
Also, I just want to point out that there have been other interested people that have reached out to us. I think I saw an email come through yesterday or today. And so I know there's been other people who have contacted us. And so that's why I was really just hoping to have the list and have the discussion so that we could give advice and come to a conclusion. I think that the reason that there hasn't been a lot of discussion on the past two is because they have previously served, and in fact, Mr. Felton is serving at this time on P&Z.
Mrs. Hart, I understand your concern about the identification of the appointees chosen by Mr. Abrams. Again, there are remedies that are available to you to be utilized pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. In this instance, Mr. Abrams was directed by the First Judicial District Court in the final writ of mandamus to appoint someone to fill the empty council seat. He has done that. He has put forth now his third reasonable candidate, and has allowed for discussion for your advice and consent as the council members.
Go ahead,
Right.
Councilor.
My discussion is, once again, a public body should avoid describing agenda items in general, broad, or vague terms. which might be interpreted as an attempt to mislead the public about business the public body intends to transact. This is especially important because this is somebody who is going to represent the citizens for the next month until we have an election. I think it is very important to have names that the people can know who they are, talk to them, contact us with their recommendations or their thoughts before we're forced to vote. So no, I am not prepared to vote tonight on any of these candidates until we're provided adequate information.
Councillor Abraham, we can make note of your position, and again, I direct you back to the Open Meetings Act where there are remedies available to address your concerns.
If I could just ask, we would prefer, I assume, to make that remedy before taking action on something that we do not have the information ahead of time and the public could not give their opinion on.
The court directed that this decision be made at the next council meeting, which is what we are here for tonight.
Right.
Counselors. You can vote your conscience. If you don't agree, don't agree. You have a vote. And how do you vote? Councillor Jaramillo.
Nay.
Councillor Abraham.
Nay.
Councillor Hawley.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Unfortunately, Jonathan Longoria's appointment dies for lack of a majority. Councilors, we move on. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The only item there, council meeting minutes for November 2nd. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 2nd, 2020. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, and with discussion.
Certainly.
I would like to ask council what her advice is. This council meeting minutes for November 2nd has been on our agenda week after week, meeting after meeting for months now. I understand that there are some that believe it was an illegal meeting, but all of us participated in it. And what we're doing is trying to approve a recording of those minutes. Can I get some guidance from council, please?
Thank you, Councillor Hawley. As has already been discussed at this meeting tonight, it sounds like all of you are well versed in the Open Meetings Act, which requires approval of the minutes of a public meeting. Your positions regarding the items and action that was taken at the November 2nd meeting are noted in the minutes and should be approved in order to ensure compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Again, if there are concerns about that meeting, the remedies available under the Open Meetings Act is the route to be taken.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Yes.
Oh.
Actually, I do. I have my hand up. So I've heard from other governmental attorneys with my clients that there are three options basically when it comes to minutes. You can approve, you can disapprove, or you can amend. And those are your options, and since it was not a legal meeting, my position is that they should not be approved. I would be fine with disapproving the minutes.
The motion is to approve the minutes.
I understand that, Ms. Nixon. However, my discussion and my opinion is to let the council members know that I would approve disapproving the minutes. But of course, you know, for an illegal meeting, I can't approve something that's illegal. So,
Counselor, once again, I'll suggest that you vote your conscience. However, you did participate in the meeting. A meeting did happen, and this is the recording of that meeting. And I will now ask for a vote. Counselor Hawley.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
nay.
Counselor Jaramillo.
Nay.
I vote aye. Motion dies
I make
for lack of a
I make
majority.
a motion to disapprove these minutes.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second before the body. However, it may be out of order because we have already acted on this item, on this agenda item this evening, and therefore the motion and second are deemed out of order. Action items. A public hearing on ordinance 2021-01, an ordinance of the town of Edgewood authorizing the sale of real property owned by the town, which was formerly utilized as town hall and which is located at 1911 Historic Route 66, Edgewood, New Mexico. This being a public hearing, we will hear from the public, and therefore we must take roll as we have in the past. We have a large number of callers on the line, and I will go through the callers and ask them to identify themselves and ask whether they wish to speak in this public hearing. First caller is caller 02. Caller 02, you have been unmuted. If you could identify yourself and whether you wish to speak to this. Caller 2. I hear no one at caller 2. Caller number 3 has been unmuted. Caller number 3, could you identify yourself and whether you would wish to speak to this?
I think I might be caller 3. This is Bob Sterling, but I don't wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Caller number 4. You have been unmuted. Caller number 4, if you could let us know who you are and if you wish to speak to this. Hearing no one at caller 4, I will move on to caller number 6. Caller number 6, identify yourself, please. I hear no one at caller number 6. Caller number 7, if you could identify yourself and if you wish to speak to this. I hear no one at caller number 8, I guess, is our next one. Caller number 8.
Yes, Karen Kaiser.
And Ms. Kaiser, do you wish to speak to this?
To the potential sale of town hall.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, thank you. Caller number 10, you're unmuted. If you could identify yourself and whether you wish to speak to this.
Yes, I do wish to speak to this.
Looking in the bonnet, I'll try to get up.
I'm sorry, what was
Can you
that?
hear me?
Yes.
My name is Linda Burke, and yes, I would like to speak to the topic of the sale of town hall.
Thank you. Caller number 11. Caller number 11. I don't believe there's anyone there. Okay. Caller number 12. If you would identify yourself, please.
Peter Smolenski.
Peter Swolensky, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes. Not tonight, thank you.
Okay. Caller number 13. Caller number 13. Hearing no one, we'll move on to caller number 14. Identify yourself, please, and if you wish to speak to this topic.
This is Jerry Powers, and yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Caller number 15.
Caller number 15 is Martha Eden. I would yield my 2 minutes to Jerry Powers.
All right. right, caller number 17.
Natasha Romero?
Ms. Romero, do you wish to speak to the sale of Town Hall?
Not tonight, thank you.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Did you say yes or no?
Oh,
No? Thank you.
no.
Thank you very much. I believe that is it for the callers. Do we have our list? First on our list is caller number 8. That would be Karen Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. I'm trying to think how to phrase my question because I've followed your attempt to sell Town Hall for a few of them now, and this particular one for many months, this same buyer, the only thing that changed was the date on the contract or the ordinance. I am mystified about a couple of things that I hope you'll address to inform the public. One is, why did we never discuss as a town, do we even want to sell this building? It seems like it could be a revenue stream, but to me, I never heard it even offered. Just one day, the agenda shows up where this individual has bought Town Hall and council is supposed to approve it. The night when Councilor Abraham was removed by the police for something that didn't even occur, ex parte, that it wasn't even a quasi-judicial, still unsettles me. And she mentioned that there were other offers. Why do you not bring forth the other offers? Or perhaps discuss that in closed session and pick one and then bring that forth? It just seems to me, and you're the expert, but that there have been many missteps and lack of proper process. I don't understand how the listing agent doesn't jeopardize his license by not bringing forth all offers on a piece of property, whether it's owned by a governmental entity or an individual. I would recommend that you all consider a public sale, which could be done more in the open and less with this backdoor unilateral decision stuff. And I caution you to not ignore other offers. I don't want to see the town become involved in litigation for something as innocent and simple as selling an asset. But I think you run a high risk for that the way it stands tonight. I'm real sorry that Attorney Czar is not in the meeting because he seems to really have an excellent grasp on this transaction. And I don't want to see the town end up in multiple lawsuits. So I trust that you guys will pull together and really consider what's best for the town. It seems like only one person was considered. One more thing, I noticed on the ordinance you keep referencing a very old appraisal, and yet the appraisal was redone in October 2020 because I remember we paid $1,250 for it, and that should be corrected. There's no point in listing a 3-year-old appraisal, especially when you bought a new one. So I think that's a correction that has to happen regardless of to whom you sell it. But anyway, thank you. Please work through what's best for the town, not what's easiest or what. One more question. Does anyone have a relationship to this buyer that is the only buyer that got considered? In any form or fashion. I find it odd. He may be the best choice, but since we never got to hear the other choices, who knows? And does anyone have a personal connection and perhaps a bias that they only wanted to consider his offer? And I ask that respectfully, but I think the question begs to be asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Next would be caller number 10, Linda Burke.
Council, I just wanted to make a quick comment on the fact that I believe the building next door to the old town hall, the former undercar facility, was recently sold. And that sale may have an impact on the value of the town hall building. Just something to consider.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Next is caller number 14, Jerry Powers.
Yes, good evening. I too, like Ms. Kaiser, I noted all the missteps in this whole process. And I think that what's happened is kind of a shame, because you have a lot of talent on the council. You have a realtor with a lot of experience, or was a realtor for many years. You have a CPA. None of that talent is being used because of this adherence to the strict lowest bar required by law. I heard Ms. Nixon articulate very well that Mayor Pro Tem Abrams doesn't have to consider the other counselors. All he has to do is take an action or make a motion, and then he can do just no collaboration, no discussion, no information provided ahead of time. That's the way this town hall sale has been handled. And because of it, all kinds of chaos has happened, from Councilor Abraham trying to reveal that there were other offers that should have been considered. There's a duty of oversight by the council to make sure that public assets that are sold get the maximum benefit to the public, and that is possible. So I think this whole process, according to what's happened with the orders from the court, would benefit from being opened up as well. The collaboration that needs to happen is not happening because you're standing on the legal advice of the lowest possible threshold of cooperation that you can give to the other members of the council. And by doing so, you're robbing yourself and the town of Edgewood, all of the people of Edgewood, of the talent and benefit and experience of each individual counselor that could contribute to the overall benefit. And that's the way government is supposed to work. So I would encourage you all to take the judge's advice, not the letter of the law, not the lowest bar. We deserve better than that in Edgewood. There's no reason we should settle for the lowest possible amount of cooperation that you can give. And there's no law against cooperation and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. I assume that Ms. Eden does not wish to speak. However, she is on the list, and if she wishes to speak, she may. Go ahead and unmute 15, please. Ms. Eden?
This is Martha Eden.
Yes.
This is Martha Eden, and the process is clearly broken in the town when it comes to maximizing opportunities to either create an income stream for the town or possibly sell an asset to the highest bidder, which I think is a law for a municipality to observe. And I don't think it matters whether the offer is cash or financed. I think you really have to look at the highest offer, and I don't think you've done that, and I can't understand why. I simply agree with everything Ms. Kaiser and Mr. Powers said. You operated in the dark, and you created something of a snafu, shall we say, and even Mr. Czar in our last meeting said you really have to clear this up before you can proceed with something that makes sense. So whatever we have to do to get past this and go to something that makes sense, I would be for it.
Thank you, Ms. Eden. I don't know how to do this without causing some feedback, but if there is anyone else that wishes to speak, we can unmute all for a moment. Do I hear anyone?
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay, I don't know what caller you are, but...
Mr. Mayor, this is
Freedom Price.
Okay.
Try caller 2.
Try caller 2.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, but we have to mute everyone else, otherwise there's a horrible amount of feedback. Okay. Caller.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, if you could identify yourself, please.
Am I caller 2?
I believe you are.
Okay, this is Phil and Aya,
Okay.
and I have a couple of questions about the sale of the building. And what I would like to ask, I guess I would merely ask this question is, why isn't it we are selling the building in the first place when it's an extraordinary value to the town of Edgewood? You could use that building by leasing it to many organizations or businesses where we would generate a monthly source of income, unless you plan on taking that money and building another building twice the size, because the value that I see is pretty much about half price to replace it. And those are the questions that I have with these concerns about selling it the way that it is at this point. I'd like to see you guys just cancel the sale completely and consider keeping the asset and utilizing the other sources as the town would generate more that way. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Anaya.
I think caller 6 was Sabine Price.
Caller 6.
This is Sabina Price.
Yes, Ms. Price.
I would like you to convey to the residents of Edgewood how much town hall was bought for initially and how much you are willing to sell it for, because I believe you're taking a 50% loss on this current offer, and I would like you to convey that to the residents of Edgewood, because personally I think making a choice like that shows how incompetent you are. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Price. I believe that we have had comment now from everyone who wishes to speak. And I will close the public comment of this hearing. The next item is discussion, consideration, action on Ordinance 2021-01, an ordinance of the Town of Edgewood authorizing the sale of real property owned by the town, which was formerly utilized as Town Hall and which is located at 1911 Historic Route 66, Edgewood, New Mexico. There is one minor issue in the whereas. Where is it? I thought I had marked it.
Next one, sorry.
Oh.
This
It's in the
one's
next-
good.
This one's good, okay. So, nope, this one's just as it is. Council, I'll entertain a motion on this and we'll move forward.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion that we reject ordinance 2021-01, authorizing the sale of the former town hall, because we have not properly had a closed session to discuss all offers that were presented.
I caution you in making a motion in the negative, Counselor. But I hear a motion in the negative. Do I hear a second?
Is there going to be a legal issue with the motion the way it's worded?
According to our rules, no. However, according to general logic, a motion in the negative is difficult sometimes to grasp.
Okay. Councilor Abraham, are you willing to withdraw your motion?
I'm not willing to approve this ordinance, no.
what would be the proper protocol if,
Motion and voting.
let's say, for example, if Counselor Abraham withdrew her motion, then does it just die if no one makes a motion?
It could die for lack of a motion.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Can we please get?
I would like to ask the attorney's opinion on this, since this is an ordinance. Or, no, this is the is this the resolution or the ordinance?
Ordinance.
This is the ordinance.
Ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Abrams. What Mr. Abrams just explained is exactly correct. According to traditional Robert's Rules of Procedure, motions should be made in the positive. However, the town ordinance does permit a negative motion, though sometimes it does get confusing and loses its meaning and opens up the gates for debate. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Abrams has called for motions on this. If Councilor Abraham withdraws her motion, there is still an opportunity for continued discussion and entertainment of a motion if someone so chooses.
Okay, then I withdraw my motion.
Okay, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-01?
She's muted. I think Councilor Holly is attempting to speak, but she is still muted.
Councilor Holly, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-01.
Do I hear a second? Going once? Going twice? Do I hear a second? Motion has been made by Councilor Holly and dies for lack of second. The ordinance 2021-01 therefore dies. Next on the agenda is consideration and action on resolution 2021-02, a resolution adopting the Open Meetings Act for the town of Edgewood. And in the second whereas, we need to change the word February to the word March. Do I hear a motion on resolution 2021-02?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve resolution 2021-2.
I will second and reiterate the change in the second whereas to amend it with removing the word February and adding the word March. Do I hear any discussion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, on page 3, paragraph 7, I think it would sound better if we took out the you are and who in that sentence so that it would read, if an individual with a disability is in need of a reader, amplifier, or qualified sign language interpreter, rather than if you are an individual with a disability who is in need. Could we make those minor changes?
I'll take that as a friendly amendment. We can certainly remove the words you are.
And who?
Point of order.
Point of order?
It would be Councilor Holly since she made the motion to accept. the friendly.
Point of order, it would be Councilor Holly who would need to accept that as a friendly amendment. My apologies.
Councilor Holly, would you accept that friendly amendment?
Frozen.
Well, looks like she's frozen.
Councilor Holly? Councilor Holly's connection seems to have frozen.
Let's take a quick adjournment so we can try.
Let's Her video just went away too. Counselors, I would recommend that we take a few minutes in adjournment and let Counselor Holly return so that we can continue this discussion. I would like to adjourn for, let's call it 5 minutes, and make sure that Counselor Holly's connection is good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, counselors. We're adjourned for 5 minutes.
Are your lights motion sensors?
5 minutes here.
Are we good?
7:42. We're real close. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We can come back.
Okay, so we are on the friendly amendment to Linda's to make that.
Right.
All right.
Let's see here. Come back into session. Oh, put my mask back on. Walk in here without it. Hit the bathroom. There we go. My beak. Hello, everyone. I see we have Councillor Holly back, Councillor Jaramillo, Councillor Abraham, and our clerk treasurer. Are we all back?
Yes. Yeah, my apologies, I lost connection.
Okay.
Last I heard, Councilor Abraham was suggesting some edits.
Right, we'll come
Yeah,
back into session from our recess, and we were in the middle of an edit on page 3, section 7, removing a few words, and I'll go ahead and let Councillor Abraham reiterate her request.
So Councillor Holly, if you would accept a friendly amendment in that section right there to remove the word "you are," so that it reads, "if an individual with a disability," and remove the word "who," so it reads, "is in need of a reader."
Sure, that would be fine.
Okay.
All right. Councillor Jaramillo.
I would like to make a motion to add, sorry, I'm hearing an echo. Okay, let's see here, let me get my train of thought back. I would like to add to item 2 that a draft agenda will be available to the governing body 1 week prior to the meeting. And then I'm fine with leaving, the agenda with the 72 hours. But it's my understanding that in the past, counselors were able to look at the agenda on Wednesday before the agenda was issued to the public on Friday. And Councillor Abraham, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Abrams, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's a great idea, especially as we're moving forward. I'll get to that in discussion. So my motion is
Councillor.
item number 2.
All right, Councillor, I'll caution you on your motion. You do have to realize that our operating agreement says that documentation for agenda items must be in on Friday prior to the meeting. So if you are asking for a change in this that moves that forward, then that other ordinance or other resolution will not any longer apply. So I think this is going to cause some confusion, and we may want to visit more than just this resolution. However, we have this one currently in front of us, but I will caution you, if you wish to make your motion, please go right ahead. But I think it will cause some issues.
Yes, sir, I understand that. I am going to make a motion and then we can get into discussion. So in item 2, I would like to add in the second sentence, a draft agenda will be available to the governing body members 1 week before the meeting.
Councillor Jaramillo has put a motion out there. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have some discussion. So when are we planning on bringing the operating resolution forward for adoption? For
Don't know.
2021?
Don't know, Counselor, but this discussion is about the open meetings resolution.
I know, I was just hoping for a little bit of information.
So on the,
We tried that once before, Counselor, and it'll be back. Have no fear. Do we have
okay, so I
any?
just wanted to, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do we have any further discussion?
Yes, I would like to have discussion. Like I said earlier, this was always past practice where the governing body members were aware of what was coming up for the next meeting, even if it's just a draft, it's an internal draft. That way, us counselors can determine what agenda items have been added on and which ones have not. And so that there's time to make edits. There's a few days there so that staff isn't stressed out waiting on a Friday afternoon to hear back or a Saturday and trying to make changes to the agenda on the weekend. I think it's prudent for us to have just a draft, and I do understand, Mayor Pro Tem, your point about providing information on the agenda items. That is unrelated to my request here. The information, let's say maybe a resolution or a name of an appointee could possibly be provided 3 days in advance. But this is just to have a draft of the agenda itself. And I think would go a long ways in the spirit of the judge's order, which is to allow all of the councilors to participate in what goes on the agenda for public discussion and debate. And we really do need that time of the extra days so that it's just not like right up on the deadline. And like I said, it's only a draft. And I would like to hear from Mr. Abrams and Councilor Abraham how that worked out in the past.
Okay, so previously we were at the time able, any member of the governing body was able to put something on the agenda. So you would contact the clerk, let them know what you wanted on there. A draft agenda would be available to make sure that what you wanted got on the way you wanted it, so there was no confusion as to maybe you put something and they misunderstood what you put. So have that on Wednesday afternoon, and then if we had any questions, we were able to work those all out with staff prior to that. And then on Friday, the final agenda would come out with all the documentation that was needed to make us feel the most informed that we could.
And that was prior to the change in the Open Meetings Act that one of our local legislators put forward. It was also prior to my admonition that the agenda be 72 hours, and my influence on that legislator to modify the Open Meetings Act at the state legislature level. Jim actually did that, and now we are here where we are. One of the reasons that I made that suggestion and change was because of the confusion that was reigning supreme. And I believe, Councilor Abraham, you were one of the people who had asked the most questions in confusion about why is this draft agenda, what's this, what's that, and why is it not there? Well, that's because it was a draft agenda, and the draft agendas don't necessarily always end up the way the agenda will when it's published and posted. So
And
I would be very, very, very cautious about jumping to any kind of a post or a pre-agenda or a preliminary agenda or a preview agenda or anything like that, because yes, it will cause confusion, much more than having a simple agenda and having a simple deadline. I've been there. I sat the council when those draft agendas were handed out, and it confused the public as completely as it could possibly. I think that it would be a terrible disservice to do this, but that is my opinion, and we'll see what happens. Do we have any further
I
discussion?
found it helpful.
Do we have any further discussions?
Yes, I do. So, like I said, this would be a draft that's internal, does not have to be posted. It would be subject to IPRA, of course, if somebody wanted it. But it would be clearly marked draft, and I just don't know a better way to involve all of the council members than that, to make sure our agenda items are being on. And yes, there may be some times where it's a little bit confusing, but that's better than the alternative of you just doing everything unilaterally and then informing us after it's too late to make any changes. And so what I'm suggesting here is, in the spirit of the judge's order, is to have this collaboration, this openness and transparency to the council, to all work together on what's going to be on the agenda in a week. And I don't think that that's unreasonable. I can tell you that since October, I have been asking for agenda items, and I don't ever get answers. And for example, I sent the email Monday, it didn't get answers. So for me, it's really important that I'm not just flying blind. And when the public gets it is when the counselors get it. In all actuality, we have no input. So if we had a draft, we would be able to have input as to what could be addressed at that meeting in the following week.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Councilor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Councilor Holly.
I vote nay.
I also vote nay. Motion dies for lack of majority. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution 2021-02, Town of Edgewood Open Meetings Resolution, with the change of the word February to the word March, and with the omission of the words "you are" and "who" in section 7. Councilors, I'll call for a vote. Councilor Holly, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Resolution 2021-02 passes with a consensus. Next on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and action on changing the job description for library specialist to librarian. Counselors, this is before you with lots of yellow marker on it, at least on mine. And you can see the strikeouts and the additions. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, I have a question. about the pay class code. Is that changing? I don't see that it is.
I don't see that mentioned here. We are just looking at the description at this point.
Okay. I just wanted to verify that. So I make a motion to, I didn't see anything that was terribly
Nope.
out of line here. So,
Councilor Jaramillo? Councilor Jaramillo? Sorry, Councilor Abraham. Councilor Jaramillo's video just went off for a moment.
okay.
Mayor, I didn't catch that last bit.
Okay, Councilor Abraham, please continue.
I make a motion to approve the changes to the librarian specialist job description to become the librarian, and with the changes that are highlighted and struck out.
And I will second.
I will second, and I did also want to hear from Councilor Holly with her experience with the library, what prompted this and the purpose of this as well.
I have not spoken to our librarian. I don't know what the purpose of this is. Maybe Mayor Pro Tem can enlighten us, but I agree with Councilor Abraham that I don't see anything out of line here.
I can take that if you want.
Okay. Mr. Torres will speak to the change.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, councilors. So if you look through the old job description, I think this was just kind of a cut and paste from the city of Moriarty. So our librarian operations manager went through and actually changed the job description to fit what the actual job is versus just the old job description that we had on the file. And so this is just putting it into compliance with what the position actually does.
Do I hear?
Question?
Yes, Councilor Jaramillo?
Mr. Torres, would it be, and maybe I'm just missing it, but would it be possible to still include the part about understanding and applying New Mexico regulations and administrative guidelines and town policies and procedures? I know this says Moriarty, so it was crossed out, but there's probably a lot of state, regulations and administrative code that needs to be followed. So I would like that particular line item to stay in. And I'll make a motion in that regard.
What page are you on?
It says 1 of 1, but it's really not. It's under minimum qualifications. And it's the 5th bullet down under required knowledge and skills. It says skill in reading, interpreting, understanding, and applying New Mexico regulations and administrative guidelines. And City of Moriarty, obviously that would change to Town of Edgewood policies and procedures, because I think that's absolutely required.
Well, excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem, there is a bullet point that says knowledge of Town of Edgewood policies and procedures at the top of that
Yes.
list of yellow.
And at the very top, there is also a bullet that says knowledge of state of New Mexico regulations and administrative guidelines relating to the library operations. So I believe that is completely covered, Councilor. Do you wish to continue with your motion?
No, this is fine. Thank you for pointing that out for me. I saw the one below, but I didn't notice the one above. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote. Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. We have changed library specialist to librarian for the town of Edgewood. We now go on to discussion items. This will be public comment on general matters. We will do the same procedure as we had done earlier and poll each of the callers, ask their name and whether they wish to speak. Caller number 2, you're unmuted. Please identify yourself and if you wish to speak to in public comment. I'm hearing nothing from caller 2. Caller number 3.
This is Bob Sterling. I do not wish to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Caller number 4. I hear no one at caller number 4. Caller number 6.
This is Sabina Price. I would like to give my time to Jerry Powers.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Caller number 8.
Yeah, this is Karen Kaiser. I have nothing further, but I would give my 2 minutes to Jerry Powers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Caller number 10.
Yes, this is Linda Burke, and I do have public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Caller number 12. I hear no one at caller number 12.
This is Peter Smolinski. I have no comment.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Smolinski. Caller number 13. I hear no one at caller number 13. Caller number 18.
This is Jared Powers. I'd like to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Caller number 19.
Yes, this is Jeremy Toon. I'd like to donate my 2 minutes to Jerry Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Toon. Caller number 21. I hear no one at caller number 21. Caller number 22.
This is Martha Eden. I do have public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Eden. Okay, I believe we have gone down through everyone. We will start with caller number 6, Sabina Price. Ms. Price.
She was donating to Jerry Powers.
Oh, wait.
First one is...
Oh, she donated to Jerry Powers?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Okay.
First one is Linda Burke.
Karen Kaiser.
To Jerry Powers.
Linda Burke. So we're go to caller number 10, please. Ms. Burke?
Yes, good evening, Council. I wanted to just give you a few updates from the Chamber of Commerce. Rather sad to announce that Founders Ranch has made the difficult decision to close its facilities permanently. That means that we will no longer have end of trail here in the East Mountains and Stancy Valley. For Edgewood, that's going to mean a loss of gross receipts taxes at the hotel, lodger's taxes from the hotel, and restaurants and shopping at our retail facilities. So that is a big loss for the community, and unfortunately a difficult decision for them. Okay, additionally, a little bit of good news. The Santa Fe County is green as of today, which increases our ability to open capacity to 50% in retail and indoor dining, 75% outdoors, and go to mass gatherings of 20 people or 120 vehicles. So that's a big change. I also wanted to mention that we do have a rodeo that will be coming to the Edgewood area this summer, July 16th and 17th. It is a ranch rodeo, and they are also hoping to do a free community concert at the soccer park in Edgewood. And I sent information to Juan and Carla on that and hope that we can get the approval to have those events happen. The community would greatly benefit from that as on a business side, as well as the fun of a free concert for the community. Also, the Chamber's Shop Local cards are now out in local retail establishments around the community and throughout the East Mountains. So please look for those as a way to help to find other local businesses that you may not be aware of and keep shopping and supporting locally. One other item, just on a matter of business, I have sent information to council as well as to staff regarding an outstanding renewal notice for the town's chamber membership. So I just encourage you to consider that and help to support our local businesses by supporting the chamber as the town has done consistently since the 1990s. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Next is Jerry Powers.
I'm sure I have more time than I'm going to need, so I will yield back whatever I don't use. My comments really are about leadership in Edgewood. The leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act toward achieving a common goal or objective. By that definition, leadership isn't happening here, which is why there has been these court actions to compel the town to behave according to the laws. The judge actively commanded or ordered Councilors Abrams and Holly to obey the law, to allow these other two councilors to place items on the agenda, to allow the public to speak, which I notice again that the public comment is at the end of the meeting when people can only comment past tense on what happened at tonight's meeting, which doesn't allow the council the benefit of the public input and opinions on what's going to happen. So it's still obvious that you don't care what the public thinks. You only allow them to vent at the end of the meeting. And that's not good for you either, because it will create nothing but resentment and hostility from the town people, because they know they're being shuffled off to the last. These are the people that elected you to represent them, and they're being put in last place to comment after the game has been played. So I would encourage you to take what the judge said seriously, not just the letter, not the low bar that Nixon was talking about that's actually required, that you were complying with the letter of the law. You wouldn't hire an employee that gave you the least amount they could possibly give you. That's not the idea of achievement and excellence in any situation, any profession, or any position. This is the least amount I'm required to do, so that's all I'm going to do. And it has created division and chaos instead of what the judge is angling for here, that ordered you to comply with actions necessary to transition to commission manager, to allow anybody to put items on the agenda, to any counselor to put items on the agenda, and then also to allow the public to comment, which I'm assuming she meant in a meaningful way as to what was going to happen at the meeting, not what has happened. So I would encourage you to take the leadership role seriously, which is to be able to motivate people toward a common vision or common goal. If you ask anyone what is the common vision of this council, I can't decipher one. I see councilors Abraham and Jaramillo trying to get openness in what's happening and try to do a collaborative process that will use all of the talents and all of the experience of those on the council for the benefit of Edgewood. But I don't see an overall vision in the leadership and the way it's going. What I see is bringing in your attorney to use against two of the counselors who are trying to get openness and transparency, the judge agreeing with them, ordering you to do it, and then bringing in the attorney tonight to tell everybody that this is the least you have to do and you're perfectly within your right to do the least you have to do. So there's no doubt we could all live our life that way, but they would look like Edgewood government looks right now, which is a mess. It's created chaos, it's created uncertainty, and it certainly isn't moving the town forward toward cooperation and the excellence that could be happening in government. So I would encourage you to take not just the letter of the law and the least amount that you can do, but try to really do what is best for Edgewood in the spirit of excellence and cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Ms. Eden.
Martha Eden. Thank you. This is Martha Eden. The people of Edgewood do not want the town to spend millions of dollars for residential sewer to replace their working septic tanks. And they do not want the town to spend millions of dollars with Robles, Rael, and Anaya to condemn the EPCOR water system. The water is not great, but the service is absolutely wonderful. We do not want to give that up. Councilor Holly and Mayor Pro Tem Abrams have never shown the least amount of concern about what Edgewood residents want. They voted in unmatched numbers last August. It's the only chance they had to vote against Mayor Bassett's agenda. And they voted in the 1,000 or more to say, no, we don't want this. And yet, at least 2 of the 3 candidates Mayor Pro Tem Abrams has brought up to fill the slot that is vacant strongly stood against the change in government. That is a monumental slap in the face of all those people who voted to change the government. And the only reason they voted for that change was because they don't want expensive residential sewer, which replaces the wonderful things they already have, which work. And they don't want the condemnation of EPCOR, which would replace the wonderful service, maybe not the wonderful water, but we definitely have wonderful service. And they don't want that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eden. Matters from councilors. Councilor Jaramillo.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending this evening and your public comments as always. I greatly appreciate hearing the feedback, and it's very important to me that the public stay involved. I did want to comment on the issue here of what we have been commanded to do by the judge, which is to fill the vacancy on the governing body, and doing this with the appointment of a qualified elector by the mayor of the municipality. And under the statute, mayor does not vote, so we need to clear up that. We need that cleared up. We need to figure that out if Mr. Abrams is the mayor moving forward or not, and voting or not. And so it says in item 6 in the judge's order, appointment of a qualified elector by the mayor of the municipality with the advice and consent of the governing body. And of course, this is a temporary appointment, as we all know, so I was a little confused about the filing with the Supreme Court to say that the judge's order should be put aside. I don't quite understand that because this is a temporary appointment. But what we're asking for here really is to participate, and I think that that's what the judge made it clear that we need to be able to do. The Municipal League made it also clear to us in our training that Ms. Holly attended with me that the voice of the minority is not to be silent. And I would mention again that we are perhaps half of the governing body now, but definitely the majority of the public voted for these changes and wants to be included in an open and transparent way. It was basically a mandate from the public. And so again, I ask you, Abrams and Holly, to really listen to them, listen to what they're saying, allow the openness and transparency instead of doing things unilaterally and in the dark and not answering emails, not providing information. That's really not in the spirit of what we need to do here. We need to be collaborative. We need to be open. And so that's what I'm asking for, is that we be able to participate and not just have things thrown at us at the very last second and expect us to already have the information and know how to vote. For example, I think you said Justin. I don't know his last name. Hopefully you'll tell me how to spell his last name. But, that takes careful consideration on a candidate and vetting, right? And this is one of the most important decisions that we can make, you guys on council here. This is a very, very important appointment, and it needs to be done with care and openness and feedback. The people should be vetted. I don't want any more division. I think it needs to be someone who the public obviously is in support of commission manager, so we need to be moving in that direction together. I did, since the judge's order, quotes the statute that's for the mayor to bring names with advice and consent of the governing body. So I looked up in Black's law definition, the definition of advice, and really that is for us, counselors, to be able to give our opinion, our counsel, to recommend a course of action, to recommend a plan, and really that's what I'm going to ask here tonight, is that we work together, perhaps have a special meeting. I think that it would be wise to listen to the candidates who have thrown their hat in the ring. I think that's the way you say that. But put their interest out there. I did see some emails and received some calls myself. And so if we are allowed to participate in this and give advice, which I asked on Monday if you were open to counselors' advice, never heard back. So I would like to have a special meeting so that we can all collaborate on a process for doing this, and perhaps on other names. And definitely any other names you have in mind, Mr. Abrams, I would love to hear about them in advance so that we can find out a little bit about them, so that the public could maybe see on a special meeting agenda the names and be able to give public comment about who they might want appointed to this important position. And so the more openness and transparency we can have, the better it's going to be for everyone. That way, us counselors don't feel like this is just being sprung on us, and we don't have any ability to participate. And we're just told, take it or leave it, basically, and not given that opportunity to have that advice. And so, why not give the names? I am really curious as to why anyone would not be transparent about names of candidates. On the school board, serving for 8 years, sometimes we had openings. We would take resumes, we would interview them in an open meeting, we could do it in a special meeting, we could all ask questions, we could meet the candidate, we could have a resume, and we could discuss it and feel very comfortable. And we didn't always have to make the decision just right there on the spot. We had information and time. And so that's what I would ask for. I think that this is urgent. It is urgent in the sense that the judge did tell us that we have to fill this vacancy. And so with that being said, I'm going to ask for a special meeting for us, and with the information provided to us in advance, so that we can properly make decisions on that day. I did want to mention too that I had several calls and emails, and I had passed this on to Carla on Saturday, I think it was, but I saw another email and got called today about the website is showing, I think I saw Jesus in the background there. The website is showing that the meeting was canceled for tonight. And so I think there was a lot of confusion about that, and I just reassured everybody, no, the meeting is still happening. So just something to think about there. As far as agenda items, I feel disappointed that we couldn't have a draft agenda on the Wednesday before the Friday agenda comes out. But I am open to feedback from the other counselors as far as, how can we do a process that allows everyone to put these items on, make sure they're on in the way that we want them to be. I think in talking to one of the administrators, it's important that we don't just load them all up on the next meeting, for example. We would be there all night, right? So we have to kind of decide when are these things going to be put on the agenda. And so, but what I don't want, and what the public doesn't want, and what the judge doesn't want, is for it to be a unilateral decision, Mr. Abrams. So we have to come up with a collaborative process here to make sure that all of the governing body members are treated equally and fairly and with respect. So I expect my emails to be answered. I expect that collaboration to happen so that we can all function in moving forward on things. And if we don't agree, we don't agree. There are many things. I don't agree with some of the comments that have been made in the media and even through CORE that we are not, we're not accomplishing anything. I don't think that's true at all. I think that there's agenda items that have been passed and we can accomplish a lot together, but it needs to be open. I went back and listened as far as commission manager, so to the topic of commission manager. I listened after the election, and I had asked, who was Mayor Bassett at the time, for deadlines and dates on specific things that would be happening in the transition. Did not get an answer. I continued to follow up. In December, I asked for these things on the agenda. Tonight, I do see them under matters from the clerk treasurer. Excuse me. And so, again, this is, I'm not sure you're quite getting the idea here, but this is, last time you had it under matters from the counselors, Mayor Pro Tem. So you had just basically informed us of what you were doing in your comments. And this was not for discussion, consideration, and action as far as commission manager discussion amongst the council. And when I did ask you, or I raised my hand to give some input, and you told me, no, we're not playing this game. I'm not taking any questions or comments. And now we have here tonight under clerk treasurer, and that's great. I want to hear from Juan. I want to hear the progress, but we have to put things on the agenda under discussion, consideration, and action so that the governing body members who are mandated by state statute to do this is not mandated by the clerk, this is not mandated by the mayor pro tem. This is mandated by the state statute for each of the governing body members, all inclusive, to be involved in this process and along with the public. So I'm asking, again, to have this on the agenda. And there are votes that need to happen. For example, single member districting. I do see that in the quote from Research and Polling, it specifically already states single member districting. Well, we still have to have that conversation. We need to hear from the public. We need to determine if that's what we want, if council wants that or not. We're not going to let a company decide that for us, right? So that's, we need to be able to vote on these things and come up with some deadlines. So again, I'm going to ask for a special meeting workshop, and maybe we need to have a few of them for commission manager transition. Saturday, another evening in the week, where the public can be involved to give input. We could come up with some deadlines of when things are going to happen. I saw an email today from Ms. Kaiser that was great, asking the county clerk, what are the deadlines, right? I mean, we need to know so that we don't miss them. And that's conversations that have not been happening. But again, I just want to reiterate, the spirit of this is cooperation collaboration, openness, transparency. This is not that Mayor Pro Tem comes down from on high and tells us his decision and tells us what's happening. That's where we have to turn this around a little bit, guys, and work together in a collaborative way. So I would like to have that meeting as well. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jaramillo. Councillor Abraham.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Councillor Abraham.
I also have a couple things. You know, one of the, it's great that we look at the library job description, but one of my concerns is we have not replaced our Parks and Rec director, and they've been gone for almost a year. We have not, you know, advertised for advisory boards to reappoint and replace people as needed. We basically have no Parks and Rec advisory board. I talked to the former animal control manager who said, you know, it'd be really helpful to have an animal control advisory board again. I would like us to address, I want us to include our public. I want us to talk to them, let them be on board. I want to do things for our public. I want to, you know, people have talked about a dog park. People have talked about, you know, trails. Those are things that are important to this community. And we have let all of that just fall apart. And so I would like us to actively start advertising for a Parks and Rec director, manager, whatever, and Parks and Rec advisory board members so that we can get that reestablished. Summer's coming. Hopefully someday we will be free to move about and socialize again. And I would like us to be ready when we do. The other thing is, you know, it was great to hear that Santa Fe County is now green. I have questions about, you know, I had asked to talk about the library being able to at least do curbside service or something like that. I'm getting a lot of complaints about us not doing the things as a town that need to be done. I hear emails go unresponded to, phone calls aren't getting returned, bills aren't being paid. And so I don't know what is going on, but I hope that we can get back to serving our community the way that we're supposed to. And then finally, I would also like to say that I was very upset to see that you would not even release names of people that you wanted us to consider. I mean, when we have an election and people, they love to go to the debates and hear what the candidates have to say. You know, and yes, they don't get that opportunity this time, but they should at least be able to see the names that are being contemplated, contact us, and give us some feedback as to do they want that person to represent them or not. And I feel like we failed them miserably tonight. And I just want to say to the public, I'm sorry. You know, we want to replace the vacancy and move forward, but we also need to do it responsibly. And I cannot just continue to be, you know, we get the agenda at 5 o'clock. If we have a question, everybody goes home and there's nobody to ask. You know, now we've been ordered to be able to put our items on the agenda. But if we don't see that they're missing until 5 o'clock, there's nobody to ask them. The staff went home. You know, I had an item. I had a citizen who was concerned about road dust. I sent the information in and plenty of time to get it on an agenda. And now, because of things, I'm going to ask, I sent another email, I'm going to ask that we discuss that on the April 8th agenda, because we're going to put everything into a big giant lump, and then we're going to have a 4-hour meeting again. I think we need to look at what do we need to do and spread them out so that we are not staying here all night and expecting our citizens to stay here all night if they want to have anything to say or know what's going on. So I just want to say that I think we can do better than we're doing. And I hope that we either look at, some kind of a real effort or mediation or something to move forward in a positive manner. So those are my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Abraham. Councilor Holly.
Okay, my item this evening is about the blue bus service. I know I mentioned it before, but I can tell you it has now been up and running. The information was in the Independent last week. I'm sure you can still get a copy of that, and there's also information on the town's website. So the North Central Regional Transit District is offering fare-free rides. That means it's no cost to you. And this is on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The service area goes from Edgewood all the way to Moriarty, and there's also a pickup in Stanley. The only request is that you make your reservation 24 hours in advance, and it is first come, first served. And you can find more information on ridethebluebus.com, or their toll-free number is 866-206-0754, extension 2. I have no idea how long this service will be available in our area. So I encourage you, if it's something that would be useful to you, please use it and let others know about it, because I think the more use we make of it, the higher probability it might be able to be continued. They will take you shopping if you need to get to Walmart or Smith's. They'll take you to medical appointments, just whatever you need. So I hope you all will take advantage of this service while it's available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hawley. Tonight, I'd like to let everybody know that the Independent is not here streaming tonight's meeting. That was their choice. At our last meeting, we both ran feeds, and our audio and video was better than what the Independent was doing for us, and I definitely appreciate what they have done in the past. But they requested that they hand that back off to us because our quality was better. That's quite nice, actually. Another item is Manuel Madrid. One of our heavy equipment operators has left the town to return to his hometown of Santa Rosa. We thank him very much for his work at the town and wish him very well on his new endeavors. The Mid-Region Council of Governments is offering no-cost small business financial training. You can get registration info off of our Facebook page or our website, or at the Mr. Cog website, which is www.mrcog-nm.gov. And the small business financial training begins March 15th. Most of the workshops are free via Zoom. So we have the information if you want to take advantage of that. Councilors Jaramillo and Abraham, both of you have suggested that we talk a bit more about roads. And I'm afraid that a single road or a single part of our community is not what we need to talk about. I have asked the town's administration, all of the managers that would be involved in roads, road maintenance, traffic, enforcement, etc., to come to me with some idea of where we're at, what we can do, and how much it's going to cost us. I know that you have all seen the report that we had, the study of needs of our roads from Bohannon Houston, and I am certain that you have seen the bottom line there. I think that is extremely troubling. And although fugitive dust is a nuisance and annoying, and I know it's a problem for many people with health issues, and we, strive to do things about that, by what I see on that list, counselors, we have a large problem and a large need. I would like your acquiescence, if I can get that, to commit a large amount of time to a discussion at our next meeting regarding the Bohannon-Houston report and what we are going to do, how we are going to do it, and how we're going to get there. You may or may not realize that for the last great number of years, roads have always been at the top of my agenda. And they have always been at the top of our ICIP. They have been there many, many times in the past, and will continue to be. And from what I see from the report from Bohannon-Houston, I have a feeling they're going to be there for a very long time into the future. We need to do something now, and we need to do something bold. I would really highly recommend you review that report. We will bring much information to you at our next meeting. Other than that, I don't have an awful lot for this evening, but I think that's going to be quite enough. Do I have your acquiescence that we do that at our next meeting? You can nod, that would be fine. Yes? I see a group of nods, yes.
Just if we could add in the budget adjustment that we had talked about at the budget workshop, and the consideration that we had discussed about using some of the excess cash after the first quarter. That's one that I've been trying to get on since September.
I think we will be open for discussion with that regarding roads, Counselor.
Great, thank you.
I think that's, we have to brainstorm. We, the group, us. And with that, I will move on for matters from the clerk treasurer, an update on the codification and future amendments to town ordinances related to commission manager form of government.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, councilors. So I put one proposal that I've received for codification of our ordinances and resolutions in the packet. I'm waiting on two more. I've had one demo and waiting for another demo. Both of them, they want me to see the demo before we move forward with proposals. The one in front of you, code publishing. I know they have the list of references and stuff in there, but they've done the city of Rio Rancho is their large one in New Mexico, and then village of Cimarron and town of Mesilla are some of their clients in New Mexico. And Rio Rancho, they're using their old module, so if you like, you can go to their site and look at some of the other ones, other states that are using the newer version. It's really it's a neat product. They'll take all of our ordinances, all of our land use, take all of that and kind of make a municipal code. So if someone's coming in, okay, how do I do this in Edgewood? Or I've got an issue with barking dogs or noise. It'll kind of break it out. So instead of having to go try and sift through what ordinance do I look through, it basically takes all of them, combines them, puts them kind of into their own little chapter section, so you can go in and look at it. So that's really neat, and that's a nice tool for the public. For the transition to commission manager, it'll make making changes to the ordinance much easier. So then that the governing body can go in and, okay, we need to make this change. Let's just say if it's powers and duties assigned that are currently to the mayor, that goes to the manager, or whatever the change needs to be. You can make that search, and then you'll know every single ordinance or resolution that needs to be changed. So it'll be a powerful tool available to them to look into that and to make those changes. There's also things in there with this quote, and all of the companies have some similar function. So people can go back and, let's just say they want to look at just animal control, for example, the barking dog or nuisance animal, whatever. They can go look it up, but then it'll show all the iterations of previous ordinances. What did the town do? I guess land use would be a good one too. You can see what was the subdivision process, and it shows all the different ways and ordinances that were in effect prior to this. So, it's just a powerful tool. You could really see, maybe the town tried this, didn't like it, went back to that one, or it just makes it a lot more open and easy to search. The tool to the public is, I think it's going to be invaluable moving forward. So I think it's definitely a positive thing, and not only the public, but it'll help with the transition when it comes to identifying the ordinances, resolutions, the things that need to be changed that the new form of government is going to want to change to. That's kind of it on this one. When I get additional quotes, I'll bring those forth too and let you guys kind of give me the guidance and which way do you want to go. So I guess moving on for the update on districting with research and polling. So once again, after the election, I actually reached out to Santa Fe County, asked them, okay, who do you guys use? Who do you recommend for districting? And research and polling came up. I asked several other municipalities, same thing. So reached out to them in September. They pretty much came back with, well, there's really nothing that can be done until the census data comes out. We'll talk when it gets later early next year, and then we'll go from there. So finally spoke with them again. It looks like the census data is not coming out until September, October, possibly November. So we're going to be using 2010 census data. The problem with that, there's a lot in the town of Edgewood that didn't exist in 2010. There's a lot of it. There's annexations that have happened. So they're going to do their best. I've sent them the shape files from the previous annexation, the shape files of the current town boundaries. So they have all of that at their disposal. They're moving forward with it. Going to draw up some proposals and present them to you. So the earliest that they'll be ready will probably be the first week of April. So as we get closer along to it, they'll bring it forth and say, and then I'll ask you guys for a special meeting, a date that'll work, so we can have that discussion or start the discussion with them for districts and how you guys want them. So that's kind of where we're at with both of those topics. And as I get more information, I will definitely share it with you and let you know.
All right, moving on. Calendar review. Our next regular council meeting will be March 24th. The largest item on that agenda that I know of currently will be roads. Councilor Jaramillo.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to thank Mr. Torres for this information and looking into these matters. And I did want to ask if on a future agenda soon here, because he's getting close. I think it's something we need to decide if that's what we want to do or not. It sounds like a great idea, but it's never been discussed. And so about codification and, spending budget funds for codification, I don't remember that ever being an action item, so that's probably something that we should add as action for the governing body to decide. And then as well, just again, my comment from earlier about the districting, we still need discussion, consideration, and action on single member districts. So yes, we have to district into 5 districts, we all know that, but we are still able to vote at large, and so we need to decide, do we want to vote at large or do we want single member districts? And that's a discussion, that consideration and action that needs to happen as well soon, probably, so they can do their work.
If we have nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Oh. So are you on calendar now?
Unless there's anything else.
Okay. So for calendar review, I did want to find out everyone's availability for a special meeting because it is of the utmost importance that we appoint a counselor. So I wanted to ask your guys' availability for a meeting to do that.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything to bring forward right now, Counselor. I don't know when I would schedule a special meeting. I need to go back and regroup. You guys kind of shot me down tonight, so I don't know what to tell you. I don't think I'm going to entertain putting anything for a special meeting on there right now. But I will certainly let you know when I'm ready, and we'll go from there. Is there anything else?
We do have quite a few other resumes and people interested, and so.
Counselor, it has been deemed my responsibility to make those appointments, and I take that very seriously. I promise you that I will let you know as soon as I have something, and you will be contacted. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds good. And I was hoping to have it maybe next week, just so that we're not delaying too far from the.
Well, Counselor, I hate to say this, but you guys kind of delayed me tonight pretty heavily. And with that, I think we can just end this discussion, and I call for an adjournment. I make a motion to adjourn. I'm not gonna belabor it, Counselor. I just am not.
And so I did have other items as well. I wanted to ask about a workshop for commission manager and ask about your availability for that.
Counselor, we are deemed a mayor and council form of government until the appointment or swearing in of officers in January of 2022. And I'm not going to go there right now. You have proven that you are willing to use the courts, and I don't have a problem with you continuing to do that if you wish. But I did make a motion to adjourn, and I am asking for a second.
Jack, I'm seeking clarification as far as
I now have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
We are able to take this time in calendar review in order to find out if we can have future meetings, future agenda items, etc. So the last time I asked for this in December, you adjourned on top of me. Now you are doing it again.
Yes, ma'am. All in favor of adjournment? Aye.
Nay. We can't hear you, Counselor Abraham.
Can't we just let each other have our thoughts and discussion? We used to do that. Can't we just return some some civility to our meetings with each other?
I don't know, Counselor.
I'm trying. I think we need to let each other speak and listen. I don't have a problem with that.
We've already had matters from counselors.
Right, and you can't take action there.
We've discussed everything on our agenda. The only thing left is adjournment. And we have a motion and a second, and we have 3 votes. Counselor Abraham, how do you vote?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, Council.